Our recording. Note that this meeting is being conducted virtually by Veritext. May begin.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon and welcome everybody to today's Legal Insight session. Today is Thursday, August the 29th, 2024. And we are happy to have you with us here for today's Legal Insight session. Today, my name is Angie Vosing, and I am the president of the PACO, and I will be presenting today on billable hours, taming the savage beast. Before we get started, there are a number of events that are going to be coming up that I'm not sure that everything has been added to the events calendar yet, but we're working on that. We have two presentations in September. We have our general membership meeting on Tuesday, the 17th of September, and our legal insight session on Thursday, September the 26th. I am not certain exactly what topics we're having on what day or which speakers, but we are getting that finalized. Also, on September the 19th, the Workers' Compensation Roundtable will kick off again with Attorney John Goodman providing a case law update for us, and that information will soon be on the website for so that you can register for that. We also have a happy hour coming up in October on October the 8th, which falls on a Tuesday, October the 8th. It's at Edison Brewing in Gahanna, and we will be bringing out more information about that as we get closer, but we hope that you will go ahead. Oh,
Angie, the
Wendy,
happy
you're
hour is actually
right.
the 9th.
It is. It's on Wednesday, October the 9th. I don't know why I had the 8th stuck in my head. But Wednesday, October the 9th at Edison Brewing in Gahanna, we'll be bringing more information as time gets closer, but put it on your calendar. You will want to join us for sure. Okay, I will go ahead and get started. So, billable hours. We're all paralegals. We all know what billable hours are, right? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Maybe we can have a better understanding of them. The vast majority of paralegals and attorneys, law clerks, you name it, are responsible for tracking billable hours. Possible exceptions would be some paralegals working in-house or some plaintiffs' firms that perhaps bill things on a contingency basis and don't require, they may not have a requirement for billable hours, but I'm sure that they still track time. So pretty much everybody's got to worry about tracking time. So, when you became a paralegal, how many of you received training on billable hours other than just the rudimentary basics of, yeah, you need to keep track of what you do and enter it into the time tracking software so we can bill the client? Anybody? Anybody have more training than that? Kelly, I am very curious. What training did you have?
Oh gosh, I didn't know you were gonna call on me.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
You're fine. So I quite literally had a class where they I think it might have just been like one session of a class when I went to paralegal school. Um and they just discussed billable hours, how you bill them, what you bill for, um and like what you're responsible for, basically.
Okay. Okay. Well, that is more training than most paralegals get, I think. I don't know that in my paralegal program, I think that we spent one evening talking about billable hours. So really not much. And you know, mostly when you start with a new firm, the training that they provide about billable hours, it's, you know, 10 to 15 minutes. It's a demonstration of the particular software they use and, you know, a demonstration of how the software works, but it doesn't, they don't go into any detail about what billable hours are, how your entries should be written, what is and is not billable time. We're pretty much left to our own devices for this. Now, most of us, I think, see billable hours as a drudgery. It's a burden. It's an onerous administrative task that just it takes us away from doing the real work that's on our to-do list, right? Right, we've got work to do. Why are you making me spend time to enter this administrative work? I don't have time for this, right? But there's more to it, and maybe if we knew and understood how billable hours are used, we might have a different perspective. Okay, today we are going to take a deeper look at billable hours. Like it or not, it's part of our job. It's part of the workflow. And if we approach it as being part of the workflow, part of the work we're doing, it then is not so much the administrative drudgery that nobody has time for. It's just, it's part of the task. It's part of the work. It's a good way to demonstrate your value to the firm and to the client, because who knows better than you what you do for the firm and for the clients. So we will take a look at what tasks are billable and what you should enter or track. Just as a brief story, my first job as a paralegal, I wasn't more than a couple of months into it. And I had just, and this was a very long time ago. I don't remember what it was, um, that I had done, but I had just finished a task. And I went to my managing partner and I said, Bill, I just spent an hour and a half doing blah, 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 blah. And gee, I don't know if that's billable or not. Should I put that down? Should I enter that time? And his response to me was, it's your job to keep track of your time, and it's my job to decide whether it's billable or not. Well, that wasn't very helpful. But it's true. I mean, at the end of the day, your billing attorney will decide if they bill the work that you've entered into the system or not. But the good news is that as you gain experience, you'll get a better insight as to what the attorney will bill, what the client or legal bill review service will pay for, and what might be appropriate. Best advice, it still goes back to what he said, enter everything. Even if you're not sure if it's billable or not, enter your time. You will be cheating yourself out of meeting your quota if you don't. So we are also going to take a look at good habits to maximize your billable hours and increase your collections. And finally, we will look at some time entries and see how they can be improved upon. Okay, time is money, right? A law firm is a business. The goal of every business is to be profitable. Law firms are no exception to that. They need to cover their costs and their expenses, and they need to make a profit. Expenses for a law firm are everything from salaries and benefits, overhead, you know, keeping the lights on, you know, the cost of buying the new laptops, the insurance for the malpractice insurance, The cost advanced, deposition fees for court reporters, for, doctor's fees, fees for medical records, fees for filing. There are a lot of expenses that go into a legal matter. So how do they cover costs and still make a profit? There are several billing models. The three common billing models are the contingency model, fixed fee billing, and billable hours. In a contingency model, the clients understand that once the case settles, once it comes to a conclusion, and you either reach a settlement with the other party or there's a jury award, then your attorney is going to take a percentage of that award and you're going to get the rest. That is how you pay for your attorney's services. In a fixed fee model, and this is becoming, it's fairly new and it's becoming more prevalent. In a fixed fee model, the attorney says to the client, okay, you pay me X dollars and I will handle this case start to finish. No additional costs. This is it. This will cover everything. Perhaps it's, for a simple divorce from filing to, um, final order. Maybe it's, with no children, they say, and I'm pulling numbers out of the air, so this is not, please don't take this as accurate. Maybe they say $2,000, start to finish. This is what it's going to cost us to do the work for this case, for this one specific issue. So then there's no bills then at the end of the month. They've paid up front for the fixed fee and everybody's happy. The attorney has the money, they're doing the work, the client knows the work is going to get done. He's not going to get a big bill at the end of the matter. But even contingency and fixed fee models, they're going to track time, right? You're still going to have to enter your time because not so much in a contingency model, but especially a fixed fee model. They're going to want to take a look and say, we charged the client $2,500 flat fee for this service, but then we ended up having 150 hours in it, 2,000 hours in it, and we lost money on this. So they're going to look at and adjust over time. Maybe their fixed fee for a divorce with no children is $1,500, but it turns out that it takes more time than that and they're losing money and they're going to bump it up to maybe 2,000. And again, these numbers are completely imaginary and could be completely off base. So even those models are going to have you track your time. So today we're going to focus solely on the billable hour model. I think it's the most common model out there. And I think probably if you've signed up for this presentation, that's the model that you work with. In this model, work is tracked and entered into whatever software you're using. And then at the end of the month, a bill is generated based on the number of hours of work performed, plus the number of costs in the case, deposition fees, medical records, travel to attend a hearing or whatnot. So what are billable hours and how are they used? Well, the most common we know about is they use billable hours to bill the clients. That's how they issue a bill for the work that's performed. But firms also use billable hours to project income. Think about your household budget. The cable is going to be the same amount every month. The trash is going to be the same amount every month. The electric and the gas, they might fluctuate higher in the summer and winter, less in the spring and in the fall when you've got the windows open, you're not running the furnace or the air conditioner. So your household expenses kind of ebb over time. And you've got to from time to time you've got to take into consideration that, oh yeah, I need new tires. it's going to be $1,000. I'm going to have to put aside money over the next few months so that when it's time to do the new tires, I've got that cash on hand. Or, little Joey needs braces. Oh, I have completely gone off the rail. Maybe little Joey needs braces and you're going to have to fit that expense into your budget. But your income stays mostly the same year round. Law firms also need to project their expenses and income. And just like your household budget, expenses are going to ebb and flow from month to month, but also income is going to vary from month to month. And the income that a law firm generates is going to depend on how much is billed and collected from the clients. So they need to be able to project or estimate income more than expenses, I think, on a monthly and quarterly basis. And they do that by looking at the hours that are reported. And this is the reason why, most firms, a lot of firms will require that all of your time be entered on a certain schedule. Everybody requires a certain schedule, whether they require your time be entered daily, weekly, monthly. There's a requirement guaranteed at a law firm as to how often your time needs to be entered so that they can look at that time over the month and say, okay, we're on track to generate the income that we project we need for this month. So that is why they set those requirements of how often your time is entered. Sometimes another use of billable hours, in addition to projecting income, sometimes they're used to determine capacity and distribute workload. If they see that there's a paralegal who's billing, 45 hours a week, and then there's another paralegal that's billing 20 hours a week, the logical conclusion is that paralegal 2 doesn't have as great a workload. They don't have as much work to do. So if they need to work on redistributing workload or assigning staff to a new attorney or to a new practice area, maybe there's a practice area that's business has really picked up and they really are struggling and they need some support. They know, oh, paralegal number 2 seems to have some capacity. We'll ask them to fill in and give us some support. And obviously, time can be used to evaluate for raises, bonuses, layoffs, things of that nature. So, and this is something I really want your input on because it varies so wildly. Every firm sets their own billable hour requirement, policies for when time has to be entered, consequences for not meeting your quota. Some numbers that I've found in a small and mid-sized firm, the average monthly billable hour quota ranges between 1,200 and 1,800. Large national firms, it can be 1,800 to 2,400. Some firms look more that you are billing 6.5 hours each day. I am very interested, and please raise your hand and share with us if you can. Some firms consider this proprietary information, and you may not be able to share. But if you can, what is your billable hour quota, and what are the penalties for not meeting your quota? Anybody? Okay. We've got one that says 2, 3 now that say 1,500 annually. That's pretty standard. That's pretty average. So each firm sets their own policies for what their billable hour quota is. Some of them treat billable hours as a guideline. It's a number to shoot for, but it's not the end all be all. If you don't hit 1,500, in the year, they're not going to tell you there's the door. They might encourage you to try harder to get closer to that target. But it's not the end of the world if you don't reach 1,500. Some firms will say, well, you didn't hit target, so you don't get a bonus this year, or we're not going to be able to give you a yearly increase this year. Meet your target next year and we'll talk. Others, if you don't hit your target, then you don't get, like I said, you don't get that increase or that bonus. Others, your continued employment depends on hitting your numbers. And if you have not hit your number, then I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep scrolling like that. Then your employment is coming to an end. Anybody have any stories to share on that front? No? Okay. Let's see. I've lost track of where I am. I apologize. So these numbers, they might look arbitrary, they might look unrealistic, they might look unfair, but let's look at it from a business perspective and see how a firm uses those numbers. Okay, so if you are in a firm that has a $1,500 or a 1,500 hour billing requirement, 1,500 hours, say they're billing you at 150 hours, and that's just a number I pulled out of thin air, an hour, that's going to generate $225,000 per year in income for the firm if you hit that. If you have 10 paralegals and they are all generating 225,000, then your income from those paralegals is $2,250,000 for the year, right? But if you only bill 1,200 hours, that's only $180,000 that year that you've billed, which is a shortfall of $45,000. And if you are running a business and your profitability, if you're down by $45,000 in generated income, that can be a significant hit. And if all 10 paralegals only generate 1,200 hours a year, then that is a loss of, let's see. $450,000 for the year. But if you have a $1,500 requirement, a 1,500 hour requirement, and you hit 1,400, that's better, but it's still a shortfall of $15,000 of income generated over the year. $150,000 if 10 paralegals only hit 1,400. So that is the business way of looking at it. Now, even if you hit your numbers, I've got really bad news for you guys. Even if you hit your numbers and you've got 1,500 billable hours that you have entered for the year, you might not. You might not have 1,500. It depends on several variables, and some of them are outside of your control. Markdowns, write-offs, non-payment, legal bill reductions, all of these can affect. I mean, you may have billed $1,500 an hour, but is the firm actually going to see the income for that total amount that you've billed? Markdowns, billing attorneys, they look at what the market will bear. They know that, a particular client, client A absolutely will not pay for certain tasks. And client B is going to freak out if you bill more than 10 hours in a month. And so they know their clients and they make adjustments as they can. So not every hour of time that you enter, maybe it doesn't get billed to the client. There's going to be markdowns. Reductions, the billing attorney might say, an hour and a half for that task. Gosh, we're getting close to what the client's willing to pay for. And it probably, I don't see why it really took an hour and a half to do that. I'm going to mark it down to 0.8 hours. And that's how much we'll bill the client. And so that is something that you have no control over. And then there's non-payment. There's always one or two clients or more, hopefully not many, that are either slow to pay or for whatever reason they end up not paying for services, and that has to get written off at the end of the year. And then there are my favorites, legal bill review companies that will review your legal bills, and they might say, 0.3 hours to do that. No, 0.2 is all it should have taken. We're only going to pay you for 0.2 hours, even though you've billed for 0.3. Or they're going to say, oh gosh, that looks like an administrative task. We're not going to pay for that. And so you've got a bill for $3,200, and by the time the legal bill review gets done with it, they're only going to pay you, with $2,400. So that is something to be conscious of. It's completely outside of your control. Another thing that's outside of your control is your workload. If things are looking a little slow and you don't have enough work to keep you busy, 6.5 hours in a day, then that's outside of your control. But if you don't have the work to do, you can't just make up billable hours. I would in that situation definitely recommend going to your attorney and saying, I don't have enough work to do. Is there something else I can help out with? Or going to a colleague, another attorney, another paralegal, and saying, hey, I have capacity. Things are a little bit light for me. I see you're struggling. Is there anything I can do for you? So a comparison to the 1,500 hours billed, real quickly, if you have billed $1,200, if you've billed 1,200 hours over the year at $150 an hour, that's 180,000. So I mean, it makes a significant difference. Let's see. If your billable hours requirement is 1,500, and that is what the firm projects for every paralegal, and everybody only hits 1,200 hours billable time for that year, their expected income drops from 2,250 a year to 1.8 million, and that's a significant difference. You look at, paralegals, maybe each of those 10 paralegals earns $50,000 a year in salary alone, plus benefits, plus overhead, plus the attorney salaries, plus costs. Is there a profit? No, there might be a net loss. So now we know how billable hours are used and why it's important to hit your numbers and avoid markdowns or legal bill reductions. And the way to avoid markdowns or legal bill reductions is to be very careful with your time entries, to make them very detailed, to show value, and to make it very clear what you did and why it was important to the case and why that entire amount should be paid. We'll talk about that more later. Okay, so what tasks are billable? There's a lot of them. Document review, legal research, researching case law, statutes, regulations, and other sources. Drafting documents, whether it's a contract, a pleading, a motion, a brief. Discovery, document collection, document organization, preparing responses to discovery. All of those things are billable. Also, case management, trial prep, witness interviews, document analysis, exhibit preparation, assembling trial binders, client communications and correspondence, whether it's to gather information, provide updates, answer legal inquiries within the bounds that we can, because we all know that we cannot give legal advice. And answering legal inquiries may be a situation where a client reached out with a question. You have gone to your attorney, said, client wants to know A, B, and C. Attorney says, tell them this, and you get in on the phone or an email or a letter and send it to the client saying, I've discussed this with the attorney. The attorney advises that we A, B, and C. Um, other billable activities, record keeping, file organization. I think legal database searches is a duplication. Apologize for that. Deposition and hearing support. Those are all billable tasks. So, well, and I want to add something to that. I just looked at my notes. Another task I would consider billable, and my attorney agrees, but not all attorneys will agree with this. Some of your attorneys may say, no, that's admin, that's not a billable task. I believe, and my attorney agrees, that docketing is a billable task. In our mind, docketing is a crucial function. If you don't meet your deadlines, there are serious repercussions, and we do not see that at all to be an administrative task. In fact, my attorney prefers that I docket court deadlines rather than handing that off to an admin. Okay, so what cannot be billed? Obviously, administrative duties. If you stood at the copier and made, copies all day long, that wouldn't be billable. E-filing pleadings. I don't know of a client in the world that will pay for having their pleadings e-filed. They consider that an admin task. Sometimes it falls to us paralegals to enter our attorney's time into the software. That would not be billable. Sending out bills, if you're responsible for approving and sending out bills to the clients, not a billable thing. Work that you didn't actually do. Come on, people. It's an ethical thing. You can't make something up and bill for it. Likewise, overbilling, billing an hour and a half for something that actually only took you an hour to do. That is not ethical, and you cannot do that. What do we think about if someone's made a mistake and you have to go back and redo the work? I'm going to fess up. Not too long ago, we had an answer to a complaint that was due in Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court. And on the day that it was due, I uploaded it to the court's docket and got an email saying that it had been accepted. I went in, I pulled the timestamp copy, didn't even look at it, threw it in, saved it to our document management system. And a month, 2 months later, I went to pull that document for whatever reason. I don't recall why, but I went to pull that document and found that I had uploaded the wrong document. I had intended to upload our answer, but the document I uploaded was not our answer. I had served on opposing counsel the appropriate document. So we had met our requirements. We were still okay as far as the court was concerned. But we then filed a motion for leave with the court to file the appropriate the correct document and have it be considered timely. And the court agreed with that. Opposing counsel was he was a little testy about that, but he's testy about all kinds of things anyway. But and I've been doing this for 19 years, so mistakes like this can happen to anybody. That was a decision that I made with the attorney. The effort that it took to draft the motion for leave to file that answer, we did not bill the client for that because that was correcting a mistake that we had made. Maybe your attorney would see it in a different light and say that was billable. That I don't know. One thing I will say, if you aren't entering tasks when you enter your time, if you are not entering all of your tasks because you think, oh, that's not billable, you could be hurting yourself because your attorney might see it in a different light. For a very long time, many years, I did not enter time for if there was an independent medical examination. And I would spend 2 or 3 hours, copying all of the medical records, putting them in chronological order, weeding out duplicate documents, and getting it ready to present to the IME doctor and to write the IME letter. I didn't bill the client for that because I thought that was an admin task. But in conversation with my attorney, he said, no, I really think that that is billable because I would much rather you spend that time to provide a concise, appropriate set of documents to our doctor rather than sending him 1,000 pages of medical records that he's going to spend 10 hours reviewing. They're not in any kind of organization. There's no organization to them. There's no rhyme or reason. He can't find what he's looking for. There's that one crucial document that he can't find. So the doctor has spent 10 hours and they're going to bill us for that. And so we have now made it our practice that preparing medical records for independent medical examinations is something that we do bill. So, that was my mindset that it was an admin task. My attorney doesn't agree. So that's something that we bill now. And, as always, if you have entered something as billable time, your billing attorney will either mark it down or write it off if he thinks it's not billable. So don't cheat yourself. Okay, good billable habits. How do you track your time? There's a lot of different ways and theories on this, several different perspectives on the best way to track your hours. Some people enter their time as each task is completed. Some people write down everything they do, enter it at the end of the day. Some people write down everything they do, enter it at the end of the week. Some people write down everything and enter it at the end of the month. Not something I would recommend, certainly. Let's see, some of the pitfalls. If you certainly, you have to write everything. If you're not entering everything as the task is completed, you've got to, at the very least, write down everything you do. But here's some pitfalls to be aware of. It's easy to forget or miss something. If you do something real quick and you forget to write it down, it's easy to miss that. If you forget to write something down, and you go to enter your time and you say, gosh, Monday, I remember Monday was a crazy day. I was so busy. How do I only have 2.8 hours of billable time? And then you've got to go back and try to recreate Monday and say, well, what did I actually do? And maybe you're looking through your emails received and sent, a phone call log, or the docket, and trying to get a feel for what it is you actually did that you forgot to write down. That can be time consuming to try to recreate the day. Another tip is that it is easier to remember large blocks of time. It's easier to remember that I spent, the most of the day on Monday preparing deposition exhibits. But then that phone call from client A or that email to attorney B, those little things, they're so much harder to remember and recapture. So it's absolutely crucial to write everything down at the very least as you go. And are you taking into consideration all of our constant interruptions? I mean, we rarely complete a task from start to finish without an interruption. There's a phone call. There's an email that I can respond real quick. It'll just take a second. Or your attorney pops into your office to ask a question or to discuss something. There's always interruptions, and it's easy to forget to write down what those things are and to capture that time. Another pitfall, and I've been guilty of this myself, sometimes if I write down what I've done and I use abbreviations, sometimes my handwriting can be a little bit iffy, and sometimes I look at it and say, I have no idea what that says. Or what is that abbreviation for? Or, oh, that matter. Was it, I just wrote down Smith. Well, was it Brian Smith? Was it Kevin Smith? Was it Andrew Smith? Which Smith matter was this? So my advice, it's best to either enter each task as it's completed or enter all of your time at the end of the day. Also, another thing to think about is If you are going to sit down at the end of the week and enter all of your time for that week in one block, it can be an hour and a half to enter all of that time. And that takes a lot out of your day, especially if you have a very busy day scheduled. And if you end up entering everything at the end of the month, oh God, don't do that. It can take 4 or 5 hours just to enter the time for a month's time. And that is not a good use of your time. I not recommended, not recommended at all. So good habits. Enter everything you do. Let the billing attorney decide whether to bill it or to mark it down. And maybe it's even going to help you identify some inefficiencies that you can improve on. Say, hey, I'm spending, a terrific amount of time every week doing this one task, and that could be done a lot faster and easier if I just did it in a different way. Use complete sentences, be concise, use the active voice, be precise, no guesstimates. If you are entering your time, write down it. This took me 1.2 hours. If you're going back at a later time and you say, well, it probably took about an hour and a half, that's not ethical billing. You be precise. There's no guesstimates. It's bill for exactly the amount of time that you spent on that task, no more. Write your entries in a way that shows the value of the work performed. And I would recommend, back to entering everything that you do and letting the attorney sort it out. There's a value in writing, in entering everything that you do. Meetings. It's an expected part of the work. It's usually important. And maybe you can't bill for that, but it shows the firm and your attorney that, yes, you were involved in an important activity. Professional development, the time you take to attend a CLE or to go to a conference or something like that. It shows that you are committed to continued learning, keeping up on the newest developments in your field, increasing your skills, advancing your credentials to be a better asset to the firm and to the client, and to increase the amount of substantive work that you're able to do in the future. It's important to let your firm know and see on a regular basis that, yes, I'm actively doing this. Another reason, especially when we're talking about using complete sentences, being concise, be detailed in your time entries. For legal bill reductions, every time there's been a legal bill reduction that's come across my desk and the attorney says, we're going to appeal this, it means that I have to go back, and for an activity I did 2-3 months ago, I've got to rewrite the entry and provide more detail and more information about what I did. And let me tell you, 2 months down the road, it's going to be hard to do that. So
I think she might be at lunch.
be very detail oriented in your time entries. Another thing to consider when you're writing your time entries, describe what you did, how it moved the case along, why was it important to the case? And this is important not only to show your attorney that you are providing good work for the client, but to show the client that you're not just sitting there twiddling thumbs. The firm is working on their case actively. This is what you're doing to move things to the desired outcome and a favorable outcome. Consider the result of what you did. Did you create a graph or a chart or a timeline? Will that graph, chart, timeline, will it be an exhibit down the road? Will it be a draft for a deposition outline? Demonstrate the value added. It's less likely, if you demonstrate value in your entry, it's less likely that the attorney is going to mark it down or write it off. It's going to satisfy the client's need to know that what you did was important, and it's going to demonstrate to the client why he should pay for that activity without complaint. Look at it as, I'm the client and I received the bill. Would I want to pay this if I looked at it? Or do these entries tell me enough about what was done that I'm going to say, yeah, that's fair, I'll pay that. Avoid block billing. Most clients, especially legal bill review, block billing is not allowable. It's difficult to see each individual task that was completed, how much time each task took, or how each task was valuable. Separate your entries to make your entries clear, easy to understand, easy to follow, easy to see the value. Know your software. If your time entry software has shortcuts or abbreviations that will save you time so that you don't have to type the same phrase a zillion times a day, you can type in 3 letters and it will auto fill. Use that. There also might be helpful reports that will help you review your work. And this is a very good tip. I would encourage you all, go back and review your time. Whether it's once a week, once a month, it will help you to identify the activities that you're spending the most time on, help you to streamline your processes, identify inefficiencies. It will help you, you can maybe set goal, you can look at it and say, boy, I'm being really inefficient with this, and then make a goal to improve your workflow. And it also can trigger you to follow up on something important that you might have missed, you might have forgotten about. And you might see that time entry and say, oh, we never received that document. We never received those medical records. We never received a response on this. I need to follow up. So let's take a look at writing effective time entries, and we'll look at what makes them good or bad and how the entries can be improved. Okay, is this a good entry? 0.5 hours. Prepare correspondence to client. Well, that doesn't really provide a lot of detail. Why did it take you a half hour to write that letter to the client? What was that letter about? You wrote 4 letters to the client last month. Yeah, which letter are you talking about? How can we make that better? How about if we reword it to 0.5 hours, review documents provided by client and prepare correspondence to client regarding additional financial and business formation documents needed to respond to plaintiff's discovery requests. Oh, okay. Well, that's the okay. You spent 4 letters. You sent 4 letters to the client. This is the one you're talking about. And you were asking the client for discoverable financial and business documents that he still hasn't provided, and maybe this is the 4th time you've asked for it. But you need those documents to complete discovery responses. Okay, I can see how that might take a half an hour. That's fair. Here's another. 0.1 hours. File motion to compel discovery with Union County Court of Common Pleas. Uh-oh. That's gonna get bumped every time it contains a restricted word, the word file. Most clients, legal bill review services, if the word file appears in your entry, they say, oh, that's admin. We're not paying for that. But, let's think about that. Is that all you did was just upload it to the court's website? Did you maybe revise the motion or finalize the motion? Did you serve opposing counsel with the motion? Did you maybe docket opposing counsel's deadline to file a memo in opposition? Okay, so we've changed it. 0.1 hours, revise and finalize, motion to compel discovery, serve opposing counsel, and docket opposing counsel's deadline to respond to the motion. All right, that's better. It gives a lot more detail. But gosh, that looks like block billing and it's not going to get approved. How can we make this better? How about this? We separate it into 2 separate entries, 0.1 hours, revise and finalize motion to compel discovery and serve opposing counsel, and then 0.1 hours, docket opposing counsel's deadline to respond to motion to compel discovery. Much better, much better. How about this one? 1.2 hours. Review medical records of St. John's Medical Center. Really? It took you an hour and 12 minutes to review medical records? How can we be sure that was accurate? How about if we rewrite it to say that we reviewed 986 pages of medical records received from St. John's Medical Center and prepare timeline detailing patients' 12 emergency department visits for complaints of low back pain in the 16 months immediately prior to the alleged low back injury. Wow, 986 pages of records. Yeah, probably did take you an hour an hour, 1.2 hours to review that. And wow, that's really good to know that he's had an ongoing low back problem and he's had that much treatment for that in the 16 months immediately prior to the alleged injury. And you created a timeline that we can use down the road that's going to be good demonstrative evidence. Much better. All right, 0.8 hours. Prepare documents for deposition. What documents? Whose deposition? What, did you stand at the copier for 0.8 hours? What'd you do? How about prepare 0.8 hours, prepare exhibits to be introduced during Dr. Bombay's expert witness deposition to support his theory of causal relationship? Okay, so it was not just documents, but it was exhibits that are going to help to prove our case. How about this one? 2.5 hours, copying financial documents, including bank statements, tax returns, mortgage documents, and estate documents to send to opposing counsel. What? First of all, I'll pay you to make copies, lady, and it couldn't have possibly taken 2.5 hours to process that number of documents. What are you talking about? And what do you mean I have to give these documents? Tax returns, mortgage, bank statements? What do you mean I have to give these documents to the other side? How about if we change it? 2.5 hours, preparation of bank statements, tax returns, mortgage documents, and estate documents responsive to discovery requests, including redaction of personal identifying information. Oh, okay. So these are things that we have to give to the other side. But even though we have to give them to the other side, you took the time and the care to redact my date of birth, my social security number, so that the information, my information that you're giving them is going to be secure. Okay. Let's look at another one. 4.7 hours, review client claim documents. What? What'd you do? That doesn't even mean anything. How about if we say 4.7 hours, review client claim documents to determine history of claim, identify all pending and potential issues, and determine possible defenses. Okay, so now you've told them exactly what it is that you're doing, that you've done, and you've made them realize that, wait a minute, potential issues? I thought it was just this one limited thing. You mean there's other things that I haven't thought of? And you've already identified arguments to help us with our defense. You know, you've got a defense plan. You know, okay, now we know where we're going and how we're going to get to the favorable outcome. Sounds like a plan. I'll pay for that. How about this one? 0.3 hours, telephone call to doctor's office to schedule deposition. 18 minutes for a phone call? What doctor? Whose deposition? What are you talking about? Or we can revise it to 0.3 hours, telephone conference with Dr. Derek Shepard's assistant to schedule expert witness deposition and obtain CV, fee schedule, and cancellation policy. Oh, wow, Dr. Dreamy's deposition. Oh, I want to go to that one. Can I come too? I want to see Dr. Dreamy. And you've requested the fee schedule and the cancellation policy. So you're being cost conscious and you're looking out for me. That's a good entry. 0.3 hours. Research for filing complaint. Yeah, really? Excuse me? What does that even mean? How about 0.3 hours? Research to determine location in which accident occurred, legal name of business entity that owned and operated defendant's dump truck, and confirm property and injury insurance maximums to determine correct venue for complaint. Okay. Venue is important. You've got to do that research. You've got to know the who, what, when, where, and how much. Is this does the do the damages come to 25,000? Is it appropriate for a court of common pleas, or are we talking about $5,000 in damages that maybe is small claims court? Or the business entity that owned the other truck, and we're talking $100,000 in damages. Maybe this is a federal matter and we need to file this in federal court. It's important to look at all of these things and have that information. Questions? Anybody have any questions? I know that was a lot of information. We went through it pretty quick, but I appreciate your attending today, and I hope that this helped you gain a better feel for what billable hours are, how they're important, and to know that it's not just drudgery, it's something that's important, and this is why you need to pay close attention to it. So thanks for being here, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.